Good morning, my name is Wisdom Da Costa. I'm a councillor here in the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, and this is my first foray into producing a video blog. Now, I'm also actually a candidate in the parliamentary election in Windsor, so Da Costa's the name and independence is the game. Right, why am I taking this first foray into producing my first ever video blog? Well, it's this. Did you hear Matt Gorman talking on this morning's Andrew Peach Breakfast Show? Now, Matt Gorman is actually director at Heathrow, and he was talking about Heathrow's proposal and why we should really vote to have a third runway. Now, this is Matt Gorman. And I'm going to play you the interview and give you some comments. Here we go.
I've been talking to Matt Gorman, one of Heathrow's directors. He told me they could grow the airport without making life any more difficult for people here in Windsor.
We've set out how we can add capacity at Heathrow, but continue the trend that we've seen over many years now of reducing the number of people affected by noise. And that's as quieter planes come in. Heathrow attracts more of those. We're encouraging more of them to come to Heathrow. We can fly them more quietly. We can land them more steeply in future.
It's a hard sell that is to local people who live under the flight path, though, isn't it? Allow us to have even more planes coming over your house and they'll be even quieter than they are now.
I talk to people locally who'll remember 30 or 40 years ago how much louder planes were then and will recognise the improvements. And we're talking about continued improvements going forward in noise. But I think importantly, it's not just us saying this. The Airports Commission, the independent body the government set up to look at this whole question, has looked at the question of expansion at Heathrow and has concluded that expansion in future represents an improvement in noise across all of the different measures they looked at compared to the airport today.
Do you have the sense that you're winning the argument with the Airports Commission?
We've made a very strong case over recent years for Heathrow, outlining some of the benefits it brings, how we'll tackle some of the impacts. But ultimately, it's the Airports Commission that will make a recommendation, and it's a government that will need to implement that.
If you are allowed to expand, give us a sense of how much time it will take, how much it will cost, what will the scale of this project be?
There would be two big phases. We'd need to go through a planning process, and it's worth saying that this would involve significant local consultation on our plans and how we could continue to improve them. We think that would take around 5 years, and then we've allowed around 5 years to build the runway and the infrastructure. So we're targeting an opening date of 2025. And then in terms of the cost that we've outlined in our submission for the runway and associated infrastructure were around £16 billion. So that's a significant investment. So yeah, in broad terms, that's what we're looking at: 10 years and £16 billion.
Would you still have to bulldoze part of the M25 to build it?
In order to move the runway further to the west, further away from London, to reduce noise over London.
Nearer to us.
Well, let me say a bit about that in a second. But just on the M25 question, we have said what we've proposed is building over the M25. But what we've proposed is building a new tunnel section of the motorway offline, so the current M25 continues to operate at normal, and then there will be a short period of disruption as the tie-in sections of the new and the existing motorway are built. But this is certainly isn't about
the M25 would be in a tunnel and the runway would be on top of it,
which is, if you look around the world, is perfectly common practice at many big airports. Paris's main airport, Atlanta, many airports in the US have sections of runway or taxiway infrastructure over major roads and motorways, and we've looked at those.
Talk us through the logic of saying, oh, people in London don't like the airport being near them, so we'll just move it slightly closer to Colnbrook and people who live in Berkshire.
Well, we have said that, I mean, if you look at the geography and the fact that planes need to land into the wind and are landing most of the time across London, more people are affected in London, which is why we look to make that shift. But does that mean we haven't taken views into account to the west? Not at all. One of the issues that we know is of particular concern to people is landing in the early mornings. And we've also looked at options to land aircraft more steeply at that time of day, but more importantly, to land aircraft further down each of our runways, which will benefit both the east and west of the airport. So there are measures that we're taking which will benefit everyone around the airport and continue to reduce noise.
Heathrow director Matt Gorman speaking to me. Planes coming overhead as right on cue, as you can hear.
Okay, Matt Gorman, really? You're saying that you want to land aircraft halfway down the runway? Let's hope they're light aircraft and small aircraft, because otherwise they might overshoot the runway. And you're saying that you can save us more noise by steepening the glide angle, ignoring the fact that that means greater noise and less fuel efficiency for people living near the airport, ignoring all that fact. If you can do that already, why haven't you already done it? What's going on here, Matt? Is this more spin, more lies, just because you want us to be seduced by you, Matt Gorman and Heathrow? I don't think so. And let's look at some of the other things that Matt Gorman has said. When we look at noise, today we are already at Heathrow above the WHO and EU guidelines for health and noise, already above that, today. And let's think about the ENASE report, the government's own report, which is handily kicked into the sideline, hidden, so we don't really work out what's going on. So the government's own ENASE report says that it's not just about the decibel count that matters. It's not the size, it's also the frequency that matters. So what you're saying, Matt Gorman, is that 30 years ago there were 300,000 flights, okay? 300,000 flights. Today there are 480,000. You want to take that up to 740,000. That's well over a doubling. It's about 140% of an increase. So you're saying it's quieter planes, right? Well, if you're going to bring the runway 3 kilometers out towards Windsor, the planes are going to be half the height that they are today. That means that actually it doesn't matter how quiet your planes are, we're still going to be twice as noisy as it was 30 years ago. So we're saying 100% from 30 years ago, 100% increase in the frequency, almost a doubling, 100% increase in the volume, and you're also going to have a doubling in the number of passengers from today, 66 million to 120 million. So that means a lot more cars on the road. Also going to have a doubling in the amount of freight traffic on the road, because you're going to increase the number of commercial flights going out, not commercial flights, but rather flights with cargo in their hold. So doubling of road traffic, doubling of freight traffic, and you think that's going to be good for us, right? Okay, oh, I forgot, the economics. The economics, they're going to bring us 100,000 new jobs. Okay, well, in the Windsor constituency, we have an unemployment rate, very happily, I'm glad to say, of 1.8% for men. Men, what is going on here? And for ladies, 1.2%. Ladies, well done. So 1,000 people are out of work in the Windsor constituency. So really and truly, 120,000, 112,000, 100,000 jobs isn't going to affect the Windsor constituency economically at all. But what it will do is have a very negative effect. And this is why. 112,000 workers, they're going to need at least 70,000 new houses. That means for Windsor, and we're looking at 12,000, and I say Windsor, I do actually mean more than just Windsor, it's the whole constituency. We're looking for an extra 12,000 houses, so an extra 8,000 houses on top of what we've got already having to provide. So we have to provide 20,000 houses in the next few years if Heathrow goes through. Now, 20,000 houses, well, we're talking about probably 2 cars per household if we're lucky, maybe 3 cars a household, you know the way it works nowadays. So we're talking about an extra 20 to 40,000 cars on the roads of Windsor, Old Windsor, Datchet, Colnbrook, Raisbury, Sunningdale, Sunninghill, Ascot, Binfield and Warfield. Where on earth are we going to put those cars? And what about kids? Where are we going to find the space for schools? Where are we going to find the space for amenities? Where are we going to find the space for playing fields? Where are we going to find the space for GP surgeries? Heathrow, Matt Gorman, bull. Absolute bull. Please stop lying to us. Start telling the truth about how this is going to affect us. Start talking about health as well. Start talking about infrastructure and roads, congestion, noise. Matt, catch yourself up.